Margaret Mary Janet Smith, and was born in Schreiber on Drummond Street. There was no hospital. And I've lived here all my life, which is good. April 21st, 1933. Oh golly, my grandfather on my dad's side was born in Ireland, and my grandfather on my mom's, I believe, was Quebec, and dad's mom, I'm not sure if she was Ireland or Canada, and my mother's mom in Eganville, Ontario. We met at a hockey game, and his name is James Robert Smith, and my brother Bob was playing hockey in the old arena. It was Marathon had come in, and I was going with Bunny LeBlanc, who was playing hockey in Marathon against Schreiber. And Jim was standing behind me, and he kept talking to me, and I was trying to ignore him, but I couldn't. And that's how we met, in the old arena. September 1st, 1951. We have 6, Sharon, 62, Robin, 61, Debbie, 58, Holly, 55, Jamie, 51, and Susan, 50. Yes, I do. We have 12 grandchildren and 12 great. Yes, I worked at, well, during the summer when I was going to school, I went and worked at the old co-op store for, the summer, and then also I went to Costa's. And then I had to go back to school too and get my grade 12. And I applied for the job at Hydro, the Electric Hydro Commission. And at that time, I was relieving Gladys Anderson, who had the job. I just would relieve her for a month in the summer. So when the job came up, I applied and I got it. I was quite amazed that I got it. I had to take the accounting, college accounting. Yeah. I volunteer at the Legion, Women's Auxiliary, and I volunteer at our church, Christmas bazaars, and I was in the choir. I am in the choir when needed. We call it the FFL choir, for funerals only. And I played the organ in the church. I'm trying to think of what else. Oh yes, I had the CGIT group. I helped with that when I was younger. The Smith Family Singers. That has turned out really great. I gave you a picture on them. They were, this is Robin's 7th year, and it's planned for October the 30th. And the last 2 years I've joined them. I feel like Mama Carter with the Carter family. And anyway, he wants me to try it again, but it depends on my voice. And they're all starting to practice now. And it's great. It's a backup of guitars and a flute once, and piano. I'm trying to think. Harmonica. It's great. They play in concert in the Thunder Bay Auditorium, and it'll be October, and it's for charity. It's for Thunder Bay's, I'm trying to think, George Jeffrey Children's Center, and Robin's Church, and the United Way. That's where the money goes. I did a lot of things. I can remember when I was really little, I think I mentioned, I played Cowboys and Indians in the graveyard, because that was just across from us, and hide and go seek, and there was kids on that street that joined me. There was no TV, so of course we played out a lot outside. There was no inside that much, except to go in and get ready for bed. And it was good. It was a good childhood. Oh, they were our neighbors, and Mrs. Corbett, I called her Auntie Louie, who is Ethel Nesbitt's grandma. And she was always baking for weddings and things like that, bake sales. So I would go knock on her door. I think I might have been 6, 7, and ask her if she had any stale cookies. And she always rounded up a few for me. It was a pest. We went, my dad, I guess it would be Sundays lots of times, and he would push Janice, she was a baby, in the carriage, and we'd go down the road to Cook's Lake and find a spot in there and have a picnic. And then another picnic we had was with Ada Scott and Mrs. Effie Scott, and then Tootsie Madge, who Mrs. Scott reared, and Frankie Scott and myself and my sister Janice. And we went to a picnic rock, and it's now the end of Ethel Street. I can see it from Debbie's house. And the highlight of that was we'd always have chocolate puff cookies. And in those days, it was always baking. Everything was homemade, nothing bought. So that was a big treat, chocolate puff cookies. We did go to the circus in Thunder Bay, usually once a year with Mrs. Scott and Toots, and we stayed, I guess, it was the Victoria Hotel on Victoria Avenue. And that was a highlight. We'd go up by train and stay overnight at the hotel. And then another one, we'd go to Pembroke in the summer on the train. The camp at Terrace Bay was well used in the summer. We never had a truck, so we would go down with Mr. and Mrs. Bob Winters and sit on the back of the truck. There'd be a mattress on it, and there'd be Frida maybe and Ida, Frida Dugan and Ida Krause, and I can remember Frida. It was always night, I think, we'd do this, and the moon would be coming over the mountain, and she'd start singing When the Moon Comes Over the Mountain. And we had good times down there. The people would gather for bonfires, and it was a social time. Some of the men would have a beer, and the women usually tea, or hot. My mother made hot chocolate. And Dad would pop popcorn, things like that. One other thing about camp, too, was Mr. Boone, Charlie Boone, had a commercial fishing job out there, and he would bring up the fish, and my brothers would row out and get a fish from him, buy a fish, and they would throw it in the rowboat, and then the darn fish would be flopping around, and I'd get scared. I was just young, and I'd almost tip the boat. So then they'd throw the fish out, and I'd get heck, because they had to pay for it. Well, growing up here was great. I mean, you were safe, and people were very friendly, you know. There's always something to do. And I don't know. It was a good place to grow up. Tried my first cigarette on the mountain at the end of the street, and I swear my father might have seen me. Dad would buy the season ticket for the arena, and it was well used. We were there a lot. It was great. I don't think we had a ticket for hockey. It was just skating. Yeah. Well, we didn't have all the items they have now, like TV and computers and that. We had a radio at which we listened to, and I remember listening to the Lux Radio Theater. That was super. That was like listening to a movie in Hollywood. And the Green Hornet, which was scary. Amos and Andy, who were funny, and Jack Benny, comedian. You know, they were good. Well, my dad had a great garden, and he would grow potatoes, turnips, carrots, cabbage, anything like that, peas. And in the winter, I remember him waxing the turnips, and we had a cold room, and the carrots would go in like a butter box with sand in it, and he would put the carrots in that, and the sand was from Terrace Bay Beach. And everything was kept in the cold room. And my mom, of course, preserved and made jams. And in the summer, when we went down to her home in Pembroke, she would fill this trunk, empty trunk, we'd take down to Pembroke and go to the market and fill it with corn on cob and cucumbers and tomatoes and crab apples and everything she could get in it, and then some clothes that my aunts had. It was Depression, and she had 3 sisters, and they would give her coats and dresses, and she would make them down for Janice and I. And the trunk would come home on our pass from the CPR, so we didn't have to pay. And it was full. Oh, right, in our kitchen in Drummond Street, we had a wood stove and a coal furnace, and I can remember them getting their first, you know, their fridge and washing machine and first bathroom, inside bathroom. And we had a house fire when I was about 11, And December, and the back of the house, the kitchen and bedroom were destroyed. And Dad and Bob was home then and helped rebuild it. And the following year, about a year apart, we had another one and the house was totaled. So we went to Pembroke that year for Christmas. It was December. And Bob and Dad stayed at the YMCA Annex and helped, clean up and that. But we moved to the place where it's the liquor store now in Schreiber. And it was a CPR house. Bob Riley lived in it, and he moved to the Y, and we moved in the CPR house on Drummond Street. That was my childhood home. What happened was the highway went through, and Corbett's were on the highway, Mr. and Mrs. Jack Corbett, and our house burnt down, and their house was the same floor plan as ours, so I don't know how they did it, but when the highway went through, I guess their equipment moved that house, Corbett's, onto our farm foundation, and that's where Lloyd Whitten is now. Imagine there's more attached to it now than we had, because our house was small. I grow a garden like my dad and mom, I guess, have flowers, have a perennial garden. But this year I decided I'm getting I got an artificial hip. So I decided to put the garden into lawn. And maybe next year I'll dig it up, because I'm going to miss all those things. They're so good. And I enjoy working out there. And another hobby I have is knitting a bit, not as much as I used to. I sewed. And I usually make aprons for the Christmas bazaar for the church. And what else? I've started learning the computer. I started in 2006 with XP, Windows XP, and I enjoyed that with Forrest Notwell. But then Robin went and bought me an Acer 81, and I went for 4 lessons with Forrest, but just at the tail end of the lesson time, so I'll have to go back in the fall, because it's a challenge. It really is. When I play the piano, I love music, all kinds of music, yeah. I like Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra, Rod Stewart, and Canadian too, Joni Mitchell, Anne Murray, Ian Tyson, Gordon Lightfoot, all those. My mom played the piano a bit, and she was in the choir at St. Andrews, all of our kids. Actually, when Holly was young, I'd say 12, she played the drums. Robin started playing the guitar. I think he was about 14, 16 maybe. And I was on the piano. We'd have this little group. And I remember playing different things with them, But it was good. It was fun. And I think that's where it's come from. We all like it. We all enjoy it. They all ended up in St. Andrew's Junior Choir, and that was good, with Eva Gordon as the leader, right? Yeah, I remember going there Saturday afternoon. That was a big thing. Movies in the town hall. And another thing I remember, I think I mentioned, was the Thanksgiving dinner in the basement of the town hall. That was unique, and that was a lot of work, because it was a turkey dinner, and it was 2 sittings, and all the women had to carry everything, the pumpkin pies and the apple pies and the potatoes and everything down to the bottom, the basement, and serve for 2 sittings. And I think they were really tired when that was over, but it was delicious. It really was. Oh, I took tap dancing lessons from Dorsa Caldwell, and once a year she'd have a concert in the town hall. It was wartime too, and a lot of the themes were the girls were in sailor outfits or soldier outfits, or along that theme. Yeah, and it was fun. Hung out after school at the Blue Lagoon in the Travelers' Home. Another spot was the Randa family with Barb Payette, Barb Randa. She had 4 sisters, so there was lots of young boys coming in, lots of music. And Mrs. Randa, she had more patience than Job. She'd be sitting there, but actually I think she enjoyed it. She'd be doing her crosswords, but listening. No, it was good. It was a good time. Also, I went to the Nelson girls, Marie and Merle and Mavis. And Mrs. Nelson, I remember we would go there after school, or sometimes maybe it was knitting club, and she'd put out a fancy tablecloth and teacups and cake and cookies, and so we felt very special about this. It was super. The CGIT group or mission band with the church, St. Andrews, yeah. And when I was in CGIT, not the leader, but in the group, we had the candlelight service, Christmas Eve, and it was well attended. The church would be full. Very nice, really nice. I know Reverend Lavender was here for a while, quite a while, and he married Jim and I. There was a Reverend Roberts, and he also taught at the high school, I remember, supply teaching, and he also taught square dancing in the church basement, which was great. I'm trying to think of the others. It's hard. Prinsloo, everybody would remember him. He was here for quite a while. They were from Holland, and he raised his children here too. They all went to school with my kids. Yeah, and actually Robin is still meeting the Prinslers as they come to his camp on One Island Lake. And they're good friends. I think I was fortunate to be living in Schreiber, raised in Schreiber. People were friendly. I think everybody looked out for each other, you know, and you felt safe and secure. I think it was a great place to grow up. I really do. I think my kids do too. They keep returning. The ones that, well, only Robin is the one that doesn't live here. The other 5 are living in Schreiber. You know, and we have lots of family dinners and get-togethers.